Maryland basketball misses out on four-star Sebastian Wilkins.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you guys for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code Locked On College at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. So Maryland basketball missed out on four-star Sebastian Wilkins, and I'll be the first one to admit I was wrong. I got to go ahead and say this. A lot of you guys are like, another jinx by me, and whatever the case is, I don't believe in that stuff, and I hope you guys don't either. Surely I didn't make the decision for Sebastian Wilkins. I don't think I jinxed it. If you believe in that stuff, whatever. It's fun. It's funny. All part of the games, but I don't really think I jinxed it. I really thought that Sebastian Wilkins was going to Maryland. I thought it made a lot of sense. Even Duke fans are in my comments saying, I don't know why he chose to go to Duke, because that Duke team right now is in a loaded spot. And I'll go ahead and say this. I think he made the wrong choice going to Duke. I think he made the wrong choice going to Duke. And I'll tell you a couple different reasons why. I'll tell you why it hurts the Terps. It definitely hurts the Terps. I really wanted this kid. I thought this was perfect for Maryland basketball, a perfect type of player to add. Sebastian Wilkins is one of the best players in the 2026 class, and he's reclassifying up to the 2025 class, which could be huge, would have been huge for Maryland basketball. And so when you look at him as 2025 now, they've changed his ranking on 247. It's good to see. A big reason why I think that it's going to hurt the Terps is because this was a really solid four-star recruit. He's rated as the 47th ranked player nationally on 247 Sports. Anytime you lose out on a player like that, it hurts. He's also listed as the 35th ranked player on 247 Sports Composite. So that means like all the other websites around, like, where they have him. So all the other websites have him a little bit higher, it sounds like. So he's definitely a blue chip type of prospect, and I thought he was going to be perfect to add. I thought he was kind of exactly what Maryland needed, and I do think it hurts the Terps that we lost out on him. He was from Brewster Academy, coming from a really good basketball program at Brewster Academy, and it was a two-man race between Duke and Maryland, and I thought it was going to be Maryland. It felt like it was going to be Maryland. It felt like the best decision was going to be Maryland. But at the end of the day, you can't guess with this stuff. You literally never know. Obviously, I predicted that, and I honestly still think that Maryland was the better choice, and I'll get into why. But I just don't really get why going to Duke. I don't get the appeal. Now, we know today there's a lot of stuff that happens behind closed doors in terms of NIL money, in terms of transfer portal, in terms of coaching staff, in terms of deals. There's so many different things in today's college basketball and college football and all college sports in general. You don't know why a kid makes a decision. You don't know what leads somebody to make a decision. But to me, I do think that Maryland was the better choice for a couple of different reasons why. If you're going to reclassify up, which kids do, this isn't something that never happens. This isn't something that's like absurd for him to do. I don't think it is. But to me, I don't really get it. I would get more if he stayed at 2026 and he decided to commit to Duke and stayed at 2026. That would have made a lot more sense to me. But him reclassifying up to 2026 didn't really make, or 2025 from a 2026, I thought, okay, everyone's saying he'll probably reclassify up. That makes a lot of sense for Maryland's roster. We need bodies like this. We need guys that are 6'8", 6'9", that can do a lot of different things, that can play the 4 spot. I like Elijah Sanders. I like Pharrell Payne, but we don't have a ton of guys we feel really good about doing that besides those two guys. And I thought Sebastian Wilkins could slide in easily to our rotation, play a lot, and it would make a lot of sense to get him this year instead of as 2026. So it's like when I heard reclassify up, I was like, makes a lot of sense. I like this Maryland team. I think there's depth in certain spots, but I still think a guy like Sebastian Wilkins, if he reclassified up to 2025 class, really fit a need that Maryland really needed. So I thought it made sense for him to reclassify up to go to Maryland. But to reclassify to go to Duke, and that goes on to my next point, It doesn't really make sense to me. And now, again, I don't know what's happening behind closed doors. Duke could have said, okay, we'll give you $500,000 if you reclassify up. But look at the Duke roster. Where are the minutes? I don't see them for a kid. That this isn't like a Cooper Flag. That's what I was saying. Like, it's normal for guys to reclassify up. It happens. You don't have to be a Cooper Flag type of guy, but this isn't like a Cooper Flag situation where it's like Cooper Flag reclassify it up, and it was like, okay, he's going to be the number one prospect anyway in the class the class above or the class below. It wasn't really going to matter. He was going to be the number one pick in the draft, and he was going to start for Duke. He was Duke's best player, one player of the year, all those different things. Like, that made sense because he knew he was going to have a role. He knew he was going to do some stuff. But to me, I don't know if Sebastian Wilkins plays next year for Duke. I don't think he plays next year for Duke. When you look at Duke's roster, when you look at guys that they got, when you look at their recruits, when you look at guys they're bringing back, I don't know if he plays or not. They have a lot of really solid guys that are back that play a similar position as him. And they just picked up a kid in Dame Sarr, who's rated above him, one of the top international prospects that's rated as like a 5-star type of wing at 6'7", does a lot of the similar stuff that Sebastian Wilkins is listed as 1 inch smaller. They also bring back, I thought this was a really big part of it, they bring back Isaiah Evans, who plays a lot of that 3 kind of 4, depending on what Duke wants to play. If Duke wants to play like a 4-round 1, Isaiah Evans can play anywhere from the 2 to the 4. They bring back Isaiah Evans, and he decided not to go to the NBA. They also bring back guys like Malik Brown and Patrick, I don't know how to say his last name, Nakoba. They also have Darren Harris, who's a DMV kid, same with Patrick, that are coming back. Darren Harris was a borderline 5-star prospect, didn't play last year, and he's deciding to come back to Duke. So something tells me that Duke's telling him he's probably going to play a good amount. He plays kind of that similar 2, 3, 4-ish position where you can kind of slide him in depending on what Duke wants to do exactly. And then that doesn't even get past Duke has 2 players at the same position. I just named guys that were already on the team the past couple of years. They have 2 recruits coming in at the same position. They bring in the number 3 ranked commit in the 2025 class, and the Boozer kid that comes in. And then they have another power forward that is coming in as well. And 247 has it ranked as the number 1 class. They have this Nicholas Camina kid that's coming in at power forward as well. That's 6'8", really similar to Sebastian Wilkins, but is ranked ahead of him. So to me, you have Cameron Boozer, who's the number 3 ranked player in the class behind those 2 freaks, behind those 2 guys that are going to be really good basketball players. We don't have to really get into those guys, but he's number 3 ranked player in the class, and they bring the number at the same position as you at 6'9", 235, and then you have bringing another kid at Nicholas Camia that is 6'8", ranked as the 15th ranked player in the class that's ahead of you, and then you just bring in Dame Sarr as well that plays kind of a similar position. I just don't really see it. I don't really get it, to be completely honest. I don't know what I'm missing. It's like it's an NIL thing. It's a flash thing. Like, I'll admit, the Duke program's a little bit more flashy. It's got a little bit more fun and spark. And when you say you're going to Duke, it's a little bit more. There's obviously more tradition there. It's arguably probably where if you ask the entire country of college basketball fans, where do you want to go to school? If they're real fans, probably the number 1 school that people are going to pick, honestly, is probably going to be Duke. There's a lot of tradition there. There's a lot of flash. So I get him going to Duke. It's a really good school as well, if you think about some of those things. But in terms of the pure basketball standpoint and trying to play early on, I don't get it. I don't see him being in the rotation next year. I just don't. I don't know where he falls in. There's just too many bodies. There's too many players around there that I don't know where he plays. I just don't see it for Duke. And I thought Maryland, he could have entered our rotation, played, had a big role, maybe even start right away for us, if not come off the bench and have a huge role as a freshman. I thought he could make a really awesome duo with Darius Adams for the future of Maryland if none of those guys were one and dones, but he just didn't want it to go that way. So I think it's interesting. I still don't really get it, but here's my theory that I'll tell you guys. I'm not saying this will happen, But this is what I've been talking about. It's important to keep these relationships. If you're Buzz Williams, I hope Buzz handled it the right way, which I'm sure he did when he told him I'm committing to Duke or whatever the case is. I don't know exactly how they do that these days, but you never know what can happen next year. Doesn't play this year at Duke at all. Maybe gets the money he wanted year one, enters the portal. And I'll just say I wouldn't be relationships. I think my thing just lagged for a second. Sorry about that. But that's why it's important to keep those relationships. And I really do think that could be potentially something after year one at Duke, potentially. Not saying that's really going to happen. That's a long shot. We're still disappointed that we missed out. It definitely hurts the Terps, but I don't know how much Duke gains from this. I don't know how much a kid like this plays for them. We'll see. There's a reason they want him. Obviously, they don't bring guys that they don't think can contribute. But I just think Duke stole a guy from Maryland, and I thought Maryland made a lot of sense for him. I thought we needed a big man. I thought we needed a power forward in a similar spot to provide us some depth, to provide us some oomph in the lineup. But that's just how some of these things go. But Maryland basketball did not wait around. We picked up 2 commits. I'll talk about who they are, what I think about them. I'll talk about that next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online, shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending, all in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery, and now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Manage your money with your partner is smoother than ever, and you can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. So Maryland basketball picks up 2 new commits that I don't think get me as excited about Sebastian Wilkins, but I do think they're solid pickups for Buzz Williams. So Maryland adds 2 different commits that I want to talk about, and I actually really like I like both of them, but one of the transfers that we got from Kansas that I'll start with, and we'll see if we get to our other commit, might talk about tomorrow. I actually really like this kid, Wilkins Passmore. I think is a really interesting player that Maryland just got. Another guard from Kansas. We got David Coit not last year, this portal segment as well, 2 guards. But this Wilkins Passmore kid is a shooting guard, 6'5", 185, and I actually think it's a really interesting type of commit because he's only played 1 year at Kansas, but he still has plenty of growth to do. He still has plenty of a career to go, and he didn't really play last year at Kansas. To be fair, Kansas started off the year preseason number 1. A lot of people thought they were going to win the national championship, thought they were by far the best team, and I was one of those people. I was looking at the Kansas roster after the guys I thought they brought in. I was like, yeah, this roster is really good. Like, that team's going to be really good. But it ended up not being as good as we thought it was going to be. They ended up losing early on. They just didn't end up doing what we thought they would do with a really solid roster. But this kid did play on that team, but didn't play a lot. But I really like him as a transfer to Maryland because he was a really solid recruit in the 2024 class. And it's not like he was a really solid recruit in the 2022 class. And it's like, it's been 5 years. Like, there's a reason he hasn't played. It was 1 year at Kansas. It's tough to play year 1 at Kansas, but he was a high-level recruit as a prospect. Last year, he was the 50th ranked player, the 13th ranked small forward, and 5th in the state of North Carolina. Like I said, he's 6'5", 185, and I think what's most exciting is some of his athletic traits. This guy is a freak in nature. This guy's an athlete. This guy has bounce. This guy can do a lot of different things in terms of his athleticism, and I think that's really exciting and see what we can groom him into. But anytime we get a player like this that was a high-level recruit, similar to somebody else that we got on our team, the Andre Mills kid that came from Texas A&M, was a 4-star recruit, didn't play last year, decided to redshirt. I think it's similar type of stuff. Both guards, both guys that potentially could end up being really good players for Maryland for the next couple of years if they end up panning out. And we have them for a while. Like, we still have this kid. This kid still has 3 more years of eligibility, and he was a really high-level recruit. So we'll see exactly what he's looking at. But this was his scouting report out of college. Passmore, or out of high school. Passmore is a strong and athletic wing. He's a major threat in transition where he runs the floor hard and can rise up for the type of explosiveness finishes that can immediately change the momentum of a game. He's a downhill straight line driver who doesn't have a ton of wiggle to his game, but can go through contact. He's made strides as a shooter and has become capable from 3 with room and rhythm. Passmore is also a projectable defender with real chance to become a weapon on the end of the floor because he gets low in his stance, slides his feet, and absorbs contact in his upper body. So it sounds like when he came out of high school, that scouting report makes it sound like he was more of an athlete a little bit than a basketball player, and he's had to develop the basketball part. But I think that's come along, and I think he started to clearly figure. I hope it's come along. A year at Kansas, a year shooting, a lot of years, or a year developing. Like, Kansas sure definitely has a lot of really solid development plans and things like that. That's one of the better programs in the country with Bill Self. He's done a lot of good things. So when I hear some of those things, that he was more of a raw athlete, that it's exciting, because I think that if you're ranked a 4-star top 50 player and you were a little bit raw, which, like, he sounds like he's out of high school, and he sounded like he started to develop the shot, and he started developing some of the dribbling stuff and some of those different things. That means you're really an elite athlete, and the other stuff will come, and Maryland will get that right. But he's a guy that could potentially hit, and it sounds like he's going to make a few highlight level plays. I don't know if you've seen him, but he can make some highlight level plays that I think are really exciting. So I really like this pickup. We've definitely kind of gotten this roster sorted out a little bit. It does sound like we have a pretty good idea of what this is kind of going to look like. We have a lot of different types of body types. I'll tell you right now, I have no idea who starts. I have no idea who ends up actually looking really good for Maryland. I really don't know. It's kind of an odd situation. There's a bunch of solid players. I think we don't know exactly what guys are going to be like. But as a transfer, Passmore he was ranked pretty highly as a transfer, a 4-star rated transfer, 4-star rated out of high school. So he's definitely a solid guy that people definitely were looking at. But I do think this is a good player. But like I was talking about, I have no idea how this roster is going to come together. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea who plays, who doesn't play. A lot of these guys we haven't seen. Some of these guys we have. Some of these guys haven't played as big of a role as they might play next year. Some of these guys have played bigger roles than what they're going to play next year. But I do really like this Maryland roster, and I'm always going to compare it to Michigan State. I think it's similar to the Michigan State roster last year. We're going to have 10, 11 guys that can play, and you might not have a guy that's going to get you 25 a night, like a Derek Queen or something like that, but you're going to have a bunch of guys that can score a night, that can do a lot of different things, that defend at a high level. And I think that's what's exciting about Rakis. I think that's what gets Buzz excited, is that Rakis is a guy that defends at a high level, that he has a lot of defensive upside with his body type, his athleticism, his explosiveness. They talked about how low he gets in his stance, and that's what Buzz Williams likes. Buzz Williams wants to play defense, and that's what this Maryland team has prided themselves over the last couple of years. We've been a really solid defensive team under Kevin Willard. Even when we were really bad 2 years ago, when Jameer Young was our only good player, we played really good defense. We were like top 15 KenPom defensive team, just couldn't score the ball. So I'm kind of excited to see what exactly will happen with the lineup and some of these different things. But I do like kind of where Maryland's at with this thing, and I do think it's going to be exciting for the Terps. We're going to talk about some quotes that came out around the Big Ten about Maryland football, that Big Ten coaches had to say about Maryland football. I think this might be the most interesting part of the day. You guys won't want to miss this, but we'll talk about that next. So they come out with this article. It's like all the Big Ten coaches say stuff about different teams to Athlon Sports. They give their scouting reports on their conference matchups and different things like that. And so the Maryland one was really interesting, some of the quotes that some of the people shared. And I'll talk about each one because I do think they are actually really interesting. And I kind of want to go through each one. We'll see how much we have time for, but to be like, do I think this is true? What's the deal? Does it make sense? So the first quote was, and we have no idea who these are from, but some coach, I don't know what level of coach, head coach, assistant, quarterback coach, water boy, I don't know exactly, but some type of coach said this. It's nearly impossible to tell what they're going to look like, but it sure seems like it's getting harder and harder for these guys. The portal hit them really hard, and they're recruiting high schools really well, but I don't think they can keep pace and expect to stay competitive. You can't succeed in this league without some roster consistency. Look, I'll be honest. I agree with this one. I think Loxley's done a good job recruiting high school players. Our 2025 class, I just saw On3 has it ranked the 23rd ranked class, 247 as a top 25 class. But there's something to be said in today's world and transfer portal world. If you're recruiting at not an elite level like a Georgia or Bama or a Ohio State or an Oregon, if you're not recruiting at that type of level or even a tick back like maybe a Clemson or like a Notre Dame, and you're kind of behind those and you're like a couple tiers below that, the guys that you get that end up panning out, the guys that you get that are high-level players, you got to be able to keep them. And I think it's going to be tough because Maryland does keep losing guys. Like, we lost a lot of our top guys that would have been high-impact guys this year, like Jay-Sean Barham, Michigan last year, Kellen Wyatt to Indiana this year. Like, there's so many different examples of Maryland losing a lot of their top solid players. Levon Johnson to Texas, Therese Davis to Ole Miss. Like, that's a lot of really good players, and you can't expect to stay consistent if, you're recruiting well, but all those guys end up going somewhere else. So I think that I agree with this quote. It's going to be really hard for Maryland to maintain at the top, to stay consistent if we can't keep some of these guys and keep maintain a majority of the roster. That's just the way it is. And then it says, on the flip side, they're landing elite level players right now for the most recent signing class and next season. You can't argue with locks, results in recruiting. So how does it all come together? Question mark. I do think that's interesting. Like a guy like Zion Ely, the number one player in the 2026 class, Malik Washington, and Jalen Gilchrist and Zymir Smith and some of these guys that we just got in the 2025 class. How does this thing come together? When does it start really clicking? When does it start really looking like we brought in recruiting class after recruiting class? That's pretty good. It's no Michigan. It's no Ohio State. It's pretty solid recruiting classes with pretty solid players. And eventually you want to see some type of consistency, some type of something from Maryland football. And I think you're getting these good players, but you're just not maintaining them, like similar to the first quote. So we'll see. I do think that is a lot of part of it, but I do want to get to the last quote. I think they're going to struggle on both sides again this season, and the offensive line has to improve immediately, but they're working a plan for the future. The missing pieces landing, developing, and then retaining players. Similar type of thing, but this one did talk more about this year. I've said it. I don't know what this team will look like this year. I think there could be a struggle. I think Maryland could be good. I do think there's places where they could struggle. So we'll see exactly. But I do think these quotes are interesting. It's a lot of stuff that I've been saying and a lot of concern that I've had. But I do think there's some truth in it. That's all we have for today, guys. Thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you guys for listening to Locked on Terps.